Coach Lynch, you kind of like a 1A and 1B across your entire defensive line from a depth perspective. Your D line depth kind of compared to what you were working with last year.
Yeah, I figured that would be the first question. Um, I think right now it's going to be harder to tell so far through camp, but I do think that this is going to be a little bit more of by committee. But saying that, last year I kind of thought the same thing. And then really we had two guys on the outside and then two guys on the inside that really, either you want to say elevated, improved their play, really bought in, mature guys that had played a lot of football for us. Those guys kind of cemented themselves. Like a guy like Ethan Hassler last year, he um, I told him the other day because he's here working with us now. I said I had no idea how good of a player you were, right? Because in 2024 he was injured, right? He played in one game, hadn't really seen him play, okay, until we really got going. So I think that last year it was a lot of not sure what you had, right? Aside from one or two guys inside, I think this year, like we have greater depth, I think, um, but it's not going to be is the same setting as it was last year to where those guys played the bulk of the snaps. So hopefully that'll give us an ability to be fresh and be able to rotate guys in and out. But what's interesting about this group too is that there's also some really unique skill sets. Okay. Last year, I think our edges and our inside guys were guys that could really do whatever you needed them to do. Um, because this day and age, like I always say or feel this time of year too, like in recruiting, there is no more recruiting to a system. You got to be able to be adaptable to do what those guys do best. Um, so I think that this year will be a fun challenge because I think we got some good depth, but I think that it'll be up to me to be able to make sure we're putting those guys in position because there's some guys that are going to be good move guys. There's some guys that are going to be more stationary bodies. So I think it's going to be by committee for us for sure.
On paper, it seems the secondary is kind of a strength of the defense. So is that how you view it? And is there any concerns from the lack of experience in the front side?
Um, I think that again, we'll see how this season goes. I think that that's definitely our most experienced unit. You know, and like the most experienced unit is not always the best, right? And vice versa, right? So I like our edge in that room in the secondary. I think that like especially when you're playing DB, uh, having experience being able to judge the ball in the deep part of the field, right? Recognize formations. It kind of slows the game for you down, right? Once you've played a lot of football, right? Which obviously results in then you being able to make more plays and us being a better defense and secondary altogether. Um, but there's limitations at each side of at each level of the ball, right? And then there are strengths at each level of the ball, right? And we have to do a great job of making sure that we're maximizing our kids' strengths, right, in the areas that we can, right, and then we're protecting them from things that we're not, um, that are more stresses, right? We talk about on defense like strengths and stresses, right, instead of weaknesses. So um, that's up to us. And then what was the second part you said about the front? No, just because like now, I mean, nowadays in college football, it's like that happens so much. I mean, like we had 50 players on defense, okay, and we have 33 new players. Okay, now I don't know exact. I can't remember. I remember at this press conference last year, I said that same number, and it was very similar. I think it was probably something like 27 or 28. Um, but we have 33 new players. We had 17 guys on our defense that were on our team last year, and only 10 of those guys really played. Okay, like meaningful snaps on defense, right? They may have played in a football game or on special teams, but for us on defense. So um, it's going to be a new cycle. And the beauty of it is that last season, I know the last time we were talking, you know, I, nobody knew any of those guys, right? Because they were all new guys up front for us. Aside from Ethan Hassler, who was new to me, right? He'd been in the program for a long time, but the last year and a half, 2 years I was around, I hadn't seen him play. So I just think that you got to get the right guys in here, and then you got to coach them and make sure that we're playing to the standard of style of play, and that I got to be able to put them in position to do what they do best. So to answer your question in a roundabout way, that does not concern me necessarily, right? It's just unproven, right? And then now we got to be able to make sure we can go prove it.
If you could, is there a specific good position out there that you have those battles that's really hard to make on the season? Start right now, who that group would be is my question. And second of all, who is that freshman that's in that's making the biggest impact that you feel like
Yeah. So the first one, so I'll make sure I hear you right. You're saying just what's the most competitive unit, competitive group? Okay. Um, So for not to be a coach answer, but there's competitions across the board, like we talked about. I mean, up front, I think it's got a chance to be by committee. We got a lot of players and spots and different skill sets in the linebacker world too. Um, Nigel Nelson is a guy that's returning, that's played for us a lot as a freshman too, right? Joe Drew, played in the secondary and has played linebacker for us. We got a guy named Trey Stevens. We got a few other guys, Josh O4, that are really competing, and I'm excited about it because I do think that before I talk about the secondary, I do think that day in and day out, it just is um, there's more and more competition that's isolating. So like today, right? I may think that it's these two guys. Tomorrow, it's the other two guys, right? And then vice versa and switching. So that tells you two things, right? One, right? We got to keep coaching and make sure that guys are continuing to execute consistently and playing with a great effort consistently, right? And physicality. And then two, right? That we had a chance to have depth in a certain unit. So I think the linebacker room is, in the same world too, right? And then in the back end, I really think that we've got, 5, 6 guys that can play winning football. So you could say that there's competition in that room, but I look at it more like we're going to have the ability to have guys play different roles and play more people, you know? Um, and then the second part of your question, yeah. So one guy that comes out or pops in my mind right now too is McKinley McShann, right? There was a defensive lineman for us, or is a defensive lineman for us, right? Plays on the edge, right? Tremendous motor, um, physical guy, mature beyond years. Like in the summer, I'd come up here on Sundays and see him outside getting extra work. Ja'Cory Johnson is another guy up front for us, right? That we've kind of stepped on the gas with a little bit lately here too, right? To make sure that this guy understands that he's in a serious opportunity to really play. And a lot of times when you're in those scenarios, you got to grow up really fast, right? And he's doing a great job. All those guys are. And there are other guys too, absolutely. But, those two guys really stood out to me the most.
Coach, you mentioned the other day where
Yeah,
last time I saw him, it was pancaking quarterbacks for the Memphis Hound Dog.
that's right.
So, can you clarify his role?
Yeah, so he is on our support staff. He's assisting Coach Malcolm Robinson with our edges. Um, so whatever you want to call it, quality control, et cetera, right? He's helping coach, right? And I was excited to get him here too because obviously, we had a new hire in Malcolm Robinson, right? And then now Ethan's a guy that's played in this system, right? So I had been trying to recruit him for a little bit, right, to try to make sure that we could get him in here. Um, and they always say like you don't recruit people into coaching, right? You try to talk them out of it, and then usually if they want to, they still want to do it, then they'll probably have a chance to do well. But I knew that he would fit right into right, and Coach Jones was the same way. So he actually played his last game on a Saturday, whatever before camp started, and then he was here that Monday, so we could get him to work. So he's doing a great job for us spending extra time with our players. So like after we get out of practice, we'll be able to still go through it. He can watch tape with players, right? Be able to still say, hey, look, in this stunt or this game, right? Or this, rush scenario, right? Talk about guys' power angles, talk about what he would do, right? Because he had a lot of success in this world. Right. So I said, hey, look, dude, you just anything he tells you, right, just run with it. Okay. And he's got the best mentality in the world. Right. But at the end of the day, you pull people along and say, hey, look, bro, this is what I would do. Okay. Because obviously, if they don't have the right skill set to do that, then we may have to have a conversation. But you take it and run because he bought in with us from day one and then had a lot of success. So we're glad to have him.
Coach, I wanted to ask you about one of the guys who did play last year a little bit, Ryan Reese.
Mhm.
How important is he what you're doing in the defensive line? How much has he improved?
Yeah, I've never been told that I have a great vocabulary necessarily, right? Or I'm sitting here thinking about how to describe, what he means to us. But he's um, uh, very important. Whatever y'all can help me out with words for that, right? But he's um, instrumental, monumental, whatever you want to say, right? Big time, okay, impactful, okay. That's him for us, right? As a leader, as a player, um, the guy's energy and effort every day, right? The guy's mentality. He's smart, understands the game, um, and it. He doesn't even have to say anything. Just the way that he carries himself day in and day out really makes other guys pull along to it, and me too, right? So guys like that are really bought in, like really bought in, right? They make me continue to realize, or as a reminder, right, that I got to get these guys in the right spot continually, right? Make sure that we're repping the right things, make sure that we're drilling the right things, right? So he's huge for us, and he's really improved. He put some weight on, right, which is a big deal for us, right? He's a movable guy, twitchy guy, violent, disruptive body. But he's put some weight on that I think is going to help, and then allow him to be more durable. So he's taken tremendous strides for sure.
How do you feel just with the progress, Joe Drew has just made? I know he has his stats as D-line linebackers right now.
Uh,
How much progress he's like?
he's made a lot of progress. He's another guy that's put on good weight, killed it in the weight room. He was 190 something pounds, right? Got up to 220 area for us because he's a soldier. He's a winner. So we told him, hey, look, this is what we think you need to do to be successful, right? And for us, right? Coach Jones was on my tail all the time about how he needed to play linebacker, right? And I thought, absolutely. First of all, yes, sir. Okay. Second of all, I thought absolutely he's going to grow into a linebacker, but I just thought in the back of my mind I wasn't sure if he'd be able to do it right now because he was a lot leaner body, and coach was like, "No, we're doing it right now." So absolutely, we did it right then, and he rose to the occasion. I didn't know he could put on that much weight, like good weight, um, muscle added to his frame in that amount of time, but he absolutely has, and uh, that guy is impressive. Okay, he really is, and hopefully he won't see this, so I don't have to say it to his face. But he is like that dude could be the president if he wanted to, right? He's an elite processor, mature beyond years, impactful guy to our defense. He plays really hard and violent, and so we're looking for big things out of Joe Drew, and not only him. There's a lot of other guys, but obviously in that linebacker spot, um, he's going to be the centerpiece, right? Or one of the guys competing in there to be it. So we're looking forward to see him play.
You talked a little bit earlier about the number of new faces that you guys have on the team. How have you guys seen them come together in activity-wise, just so far through the offseason?
Yeah, great question. So that was a big part of our summer. Okay, so Coach was talking about TCS, which was Team Connection Summer. Okay, big deal for us. Because in this day and age, as rosters can change, right? If you don't do something about it, you might turn around and look and see a team of guys that don't know each other really. Okay. In today's day and age, too, guys are on their phones, and it's crazy, but they have their friends, right? The guys that they run with, right? But they may not know old guy over here, right? In the across the locker room. Okay. So last year that was a wild realization for me, okay, about how, because like when I played, and when a lot of people were younger too, like you got to know everybody, okay, but it's not always the same. So my point is that we spent a lot of time and effort to be able to create activities, to be able to make those guys go through stress together, go through hard times together, and be able to overcome those things, and then also be able to have some fun and work together in our 4th and 1 groups. So uh, that was not a huge emphasis. That was the number one emphasis of our summer. And I think that once you get into camp, it kind of takes another step, right? Because you're spending so much time together, and uh, guys get mad at each other, right? And then now that's when you make up, right? And then come back together, and then you really build relationships too. So, I mean, I'm a lot more excited about that at this point in the season than I was last year. So hopefully we can keep building on that.
We have a lot of talk about player improvement going into year 2 as defensive coordinator. How do you feel that you have improved
Um,
or learned?
yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I think that among other things, I could give you a laundry list, but you know what managing time and managing people looks like, which is a very um, whatever practical thing to say, but I think that that's going a long way. Um, I think that for me, a big part of like the second half of last season too, just my personal piece is like keeping the main thing, day in and out, day out. Um, for example, like we as a staff committed to spending more time on third downs, right? Because you're going to create third downs and we got to win third downs. Okay. And we look at our games too, the games that we played really good defense and, held people to, close to single digits or, a couple conference games we had last year, like we performed well on third down and stopped the run. And if you look at the games where we did not perform very well, we didn't perform very well on third down. It's a kind of a direct correlation. So I talked to our staff and we committed to spending more time on doing it, and, not sacrificing on base downs, but even, an hour, or an hour or two, on Tuesday night or the day that we're getting ready for it. I think that's gone a long way. And then the other thing to me is just like something for us on defense may be the perfect thing to do on the board, right? Schematically, right? Some invention that we have or based off what an opponent does may be the perfect thing to do in theory, but like the game ain't played on a board. And that may sound great, but that guy can't do that, right? This may sound great, but he can do this really well, but he don't do that, right? So I think that for me, unfortunately, that like in the season, it takes a little bit of time to be able to understand what guys do really well, right? And be able to understand their skill set more and more. So my objective right now in free time is just being able to just spend time doing that so that we can set guys up in position as best we can. But for me, that's probably been the biggest thing.
You mentioned at the kickoff party a focus on being explosive on defense. How do you see that translated to training camp so far?
You mean explosive?
Making explosive plays.
Yeah. I think that yesterday we saw some of that. I think that a big piece for us is being able to pressure like with the right mentality. You know, once we got the pads on now, we're 2-3 days into putting the pads on, and I think that you can really find out how physical certain guys are, right? And we've been trying to emphasize little things, right? Like uh, we pulled up. We pull up other NFL teams, right, and other college teams. Okay, and Coach was talking about style of play, and we talk about the silent video. So the other day, we finished a unit meeting, and I just showed them, Miami's defense, right? Just giving that Miami Hurricanes just as an example, just because those guys play with relentless effort, and you feel it, even if you're not even trying to watch, right? And if you're just passively watching a game, you can feel what type of energy somebody has and the mentality that they have. So I think that we saw a little bit of that the other day or yesterday, and it don't matter unless we keep doing it consistently. But that's flashed in camp.
Got time for one or two more, guys. Go ahead. We don't get time. Yeah.
We asked the other two coaches something similar along the lines, just the scrimmage coming up in a couple days. What are you hoping to see from that?
I'm hoping to see tremendous effort. Um, you know, while still taking care of our teammates, right? Real physicality, okay, and then guys communicating and executing as a unit um, consistently, okay. And I know that sounds like the coachy answer, but it's true, okay, because at the end of the day, when we try to simplify it for our guys, we talk about effort, talk about violence and physicality, right, at point of attack, and then execution. Because at the end of the day, like if you're tell all the guys to, if you're lazy, right, and you're not getting to the ball, one, you won't play. But if you're not playing with tremendous effort, it don't matter how physical you're playing or the type of violence you're playing with, right? You can't get there, right? If you play with tremendous effort, right, but then you don't play with violence and physicality, right? Then now it don't matter, right? Because you're gonna get ran through, and it's not gonna do much for us, right? And the same thing if you play really hard and really violent, right, and with physicality, but now we cut somebody loose, right? Then now it don't matter, okay? Or if we don't fit the right gap, it don't matter, right? None of that matters anymore. So I want to see those three things consistently down in and down out, and I want to see our D line play together as one. We've been talking about 11 for 11. That we want all 11 guys working together. The other day at practice, we had a few times where we had to show the guys where now, hey, look, we were 10 for 11. Okay, where, hey, man, like this guy is to the standard, right? But then now we busted this one thing, right? And then now that one thing, right, can be a big thing. Okay, so consistently those guys being able to put some 11 on tape, and then I will be happy. And then at the end of the day, there's going to be, parts too that you're not going to be happy with, right? And that's my job, and we'll keep coaching it, and that's why we're practicing.
Jake, you good? Got you guys anything else? All right, thank you.
Appreciate y'all.